Okay, we are live on Facebook right now. So we are, thank you, that we have the Doubted on from the Los Angeles metal band. And let's see if I can get you a better view, get everybody on the screen.
This is everybody. We're missing one guy.
Oh, okay, good. Good. I thought like I had to widen it. But yeah, so you got the questions. We're going to get through this interview and talk it up. So you're fixing your angle.
Yeah, there we go.
So the first question we always ask our guest is, when did you first get into music? Whoever wants to start first. Joshua, do you want to go first or somebody else?
Sure. Yeah, I was always into music growing up. My parents always had it on. It's always usually like classic stuff like the Eagles, AC/DC, things like that, just older like classic rock kind of stuff. And then because of that, when I got into like middle school, started wanting to play guitar, so started taking lessons. George and I grew up going to the same Sunday school when we were little.
First grade, kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah. And he started playing bass with his church.
I was 9.
Yeah. And then eventually he got into guitar as well. And then we started taking lessons together. So that's kind of how we got started.
Well, yeah, I played guitar for like a year or two from age 11 to like 12, 13. And then I sucked. I was terrible. And Josh was always so much better than I was. And and Josh, yeah. And he's actually our vocalist now, but let's see. What was it? Middle school. No, yeah, it was 8th grade talent show. No, it was 7th grade talent show. Yeah, 7th grade talent show. He came to me and was like, hey, do you want to play my Gibson SG for a Green Day song called 21 Guns? And then I got into Green Day, and I was like, yes. And that was actually my first live performance, I guess, for real people, not including like the church, I guess, that I was going to. Was with him for 7th grade talent show. And then the next year we played the 8th grade talent show and played Nightmare and Gunslinger by Avenged Sevenfold, which was pretty cool. Again, he was still always like better than me. And then that pissed me off. So
yeah, they gotta get boost up your game.
yeah. And then let's see what happened after that. I guess what happened after that? Where was I going with that? We started taking joint lessons with the same guy, Ian Bolton, out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Actually, us three right here are Tyler's drums, Josh's vocals, George's guitar, Chris over there is other guitar. Us three, though, we grew up in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We all went to school together, and then we met Chris out in here. Sorry, I went to school with him. I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, we grew up together, going to school together and shit. And me and Josh played guitar basically all through middle school, junior high, high school together. But he kind of went down the baseball path and football path in high school, and I gave up baseball and just dedicated my life to music. And within a year, I passed him up in guitar, or maybe a couple of years. I don't know.
Didn't take too long.
No, but and then we kind of swapped places, and we didn't start this band though until after senior year, 2016. Yeah, 2016. We all graduated 2015. Me and Tyler. Well, I'm jumping ahead. You can go ahead with your questions. Tyler, you go ahead. When did you start?
I've been playing drums earlier than I can actually remember. My dad was a drummer for all of his life, basically. Grew up on the same stuff they did, classic rock. And then probably somewhere like middle school, junior high, I transitioned to like metal and started playing drums. And then George and I started playing together, I think 8th grade year. I think after that talent show.
Yeah.
We started playing together, just jamming. And then actually started writing somewhere midway through high school, but never really dedicated to finishing anything until like the very after we got out, basically.
After we graduated. But yeah. Shit, let me go back, I guess, and tell you my roots. Because your roots are classic rock. Your roots are probably classic rock, too. And, you know, I've got some classic rock. My dad was super into, you know, Pink Floyd and Leonard Skinner and even Yes and Genesis. And
yeah, that's my area. I'm a keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, he liked a lot of different oldie rock or classic rock or progressive
rock. Yeah, that's the zone I'm in. But yeah, I appreciate that.
But I wasn't super into it. I actually, I think from as long as I can remember up until I started playing bass, I was into country, like old school country, well, slightly old school country. Yes, I love Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr. and
Johnny Cash.
Yeah, you know, I didn't listen to him that much, but yeah, I respected him. I just didn't, you know, have any.
Waylon Jennings.
No, I actually just heard about him a few years ago, actually. But yeah, no, he's great. Let's see who Alan Jackson, Brad Paisley. See, not old school, but like old school up until the 2000s. Country, Alan Jackson, George Strait, Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, some older stuff like that, I guess, when they started out. And then High School Musical pop, man, that's what I was into. I was super into Disney Channel and all that music going, you know, musical.
Or like Hannah Montana.
Yeah, I'm not joking. And then all of a sudden, Green Day came into my life. Metallica came into my life. Coheed and Cambria came into my life, and it was all over after that. I was just.
Do you like that kind of punk attitude from like Green Day and then the heavy metal?
Yeah.
Metallica with kind of like really kind of moving metal into like a post-Zeppelin state.
Yeah,
but they were a lot more serious than bands like Rat or Poison, you know.
Yeah.
They were more like bringing back. Yeah, they were bringing back like the Zepp type of thing.
Sure, really raw too. And then me and Josh spent a whole summer. Forget what year it was. It was probably 7th grade.
With Alex.
6th grade, 7th grade. I don't remember. Somewhere in there. We spent a whole summer playing Modern Warfare 2. Well, no. So hold on. We start the day.
Video games.
We'd start the day playing the 3 songs we knew over and over and over for like an hour or two at my buddy's house. His name's Alex Melton, our buddy's house. Then we'd go downstairs and his mom would order us or go get us Little Caesars pizza, and we'd watch Step Brothers and eat Little Caesars pizza and play Modern Warfare 2 and listen to music every day for like a whole summer pretty much. And there was this one day where Alex sat us down in front of the computer. And he's like, dude, you got to check out this badass band, man. They just released a single. It's called Nightmares by Avenged Sevenfold. And I was like, no, they can't be better than Metallica, man. No way. Nobody's better than Metallica. And I listened to it and I hated it. And then like 3 days later, I fell in love with every song they ever put out. And like I learned all their stuff as much as I could, as much as I thought I could at the time.
So that is that your favorite? Like I always ask the question, like who you're more influenced by. Is that your primary influence right now?
I can easily say I would not be even half the guitar player I am right now if it weren't for that band. Because I mean, Sinister Gates' guitar work took me from sucking really bad to being like, oh, I can actually play. Okay. You know, just like grinding on, you know, his solo work and his rhythmic rhythm guitar that he writes, and even the Rev, writes a bunch of stuff. Their drummer, but anyway, so yeah, that's my roots. Let's move to Chris now. I know he's similar.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did majority of the same stuff as they did. I mean, just play video games all day and then learn a bunch of seven-folk songs.
So you're a guitar player? You're a guitar player?
Yeah, second guitar player.
Yeah, we're missing our bass player.
Yeah.
He had to go home.
So do you play more rhythm or you guys trade off lead?
It's balanced.
It's actually, we're trying to make it more and more balanced because, I mean, we're equal in abilities. But the first album, just because, I kind of wrote 90% of it before he even joined the band. I kind of take most of the leads when we play. But, the next album we're going to put out, we're going to be dueling all the time, going back and forth. He does play some leads for sure, just because I'd rather play the rhythm.
So do you guys, because you have two guitar players, do you ever get into like a Eagles or Leonard Skinner kind of dual guitar, like playing like, in different keys, like the same type of solo, kind of trading off like Joe Walsh used to trade off?
Yeah.
We
have that in our music all
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I can hear that. So because that's like an Eagles, Leonard Skinner kind of thing that used to heavy 70s technique of having the dual guitar players kind of jump on the solos in different keys or different ways of doing different types of guitars, modifying the sound and just having a better tone because you're both doing it slightly off key or in the same, or even hitting the same note at the same time, which like an Allman Brothers thing. Yeah,
Leonard Skinner does that too a lot. I mean, they have two guitar players. Sometimes the lead just is doubled and they have a rhythm guitar player. Yeah,
because Dickie Betts and Dwayne Allman, they used to really lock in, and it was like unbelievable. I used to see the Allmans when Dickie Betts was still with them, and just seeing that twin guitar and the way Dickie can play. I mean, I never got to see Dwayne, but seeing them lock in with the Government Mule, their guitar player, that he would like, he can kind of match. But yeah, that kind of guitar playing has always been. I'm a keyboard player, but I'm a frustrated guitar player. So I try to take a Trent Reznor approach to synthesizers and play synthesizers in a more aggressive way, not like a new wave way, but a very aggressive industrial metal kind of way. So that's what I like talking to guys who are guitar heavy, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my synths.
Yeah. Excuse our dryer.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a cool thing to actually talk to people. There's so many bands today that are like not even bands; they're like DJs, or they're guys using like Akai, MPCs, or they're using CDJs, and they go on stage and all they got is an SD card. Yeah. That they pop in their CDJ, and then you're like, okay. I want to see somebody actually not just jump up and down in front of the CDJ. I want to see somebody actually shred on a guitar or hit, do a drum solo. So it's cool seeing guys like you, because I grew up in a time, punk was the big thing. I was listening to the Ramones. I was listening to like the Replacements and guys who were really shredding. Black Flag on Hoots Skidoo, bands like that. And it's cool to see guys, having that kind of, the idea that you guys can still play without being so connected to computers. That's a bad thing. There's cool music that can be done with computers, but I think it just adds more life when you have a band that plays live.
Yeah. That brings up a good point from our failed attempt at this last time. I mentioned seeing like I'm super into a band called 21 Pilots, and I've been into them for the past, I guess, 4 or 5 years, and I bought $100 tickets to go see them one time, and I always watch their live stuff on YouTube and stuff, but I was so stoked to go see them, and went and got like real close up in the pit, and it's only 2 guys, and 90% of the music you're hearing is actually coming from a track. And there's nothing, I'm not saying anything's against, I'm not against it. You do your own thing. It's a total different aspect of music, in my opinion. But the thing that I was so let down about is that so much of the sound that I was hearing was not being played in front of me, and it just felt the exact same, no different than watching the YouTube.
The problem with bands like that, they get locked into their sequencers. They get locked into main stage. They get locked into their programming on Ableton or something, and then they have all these backing tracks, and they can't really get out of it. Yeah, and so it's cool because it's cool when you have management that want you to replicate your exact album.
Yeah,
and your tour manager wants you to sound the same every single show. But if you want to go back to the old days, I used to go see the Dead. I used to go see Funkadelic. I mean, I saw Green Day at Woodstock when that mud incident, and I also saw Trent Reznor at Woodstock. And when you see a band that's not using sequencers to that degree, it's just that live experience. Because I'm a kid that was elevating, the Monterey Pop Jazz Festival when I was a kid. I'm in my 50s. Hendrix's appearance there, and the Who's appearance at Monterey, at Monterey, and just the big events of the 60s, the Stones playing, all over the U.S. It's just seeing a band really shred and do it is kind of what I wanted to see them. I used to see Pearl Jam, and Pearl Jam every night. You could see sometimes a Pearl Jam fan would buy a ticket to see 2 shows in a row.
Yeah,
because Pearl Jam, the second day they do it, they wouldn't do the song the same way.
Yeah.
Eddie Vedder is known for changing stuff. He changed the lyrics. He changed the structure. And that's kind of why you want to see a band.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to
get wrong. Like, I think we brought it up the last time as well. Like, no disrespect. I don't have anything against that.
I think a lot of fans will like it.
I think you said, there's a difference between a performer.
Yeah, performer.
And a musician, I guess, or a band or whatever.
Or some things are more performance art. Like you could say, like what Bowie used to do.
Yeah.
Bowie sometimes was more theatrical than musical, but he kind of tried to blend it. So like if you saw Bowie when he was like Ziggy Stardust, that was very much like a real rock band. But once you see him like Let's Dance, that was more processed, right? That was more like locked in. Yeah. But Ziggy is like my preference. He had so many different forms, but Ziggy was closer to like a rock show because they had a real rock band. I mean, that band was pretty heavy. But you get to like Let's Dance, it's more processed. There's more stuff going on. But he could kind of morph into different things, and he liked that performance. And he gets people like Lady Gaga, you 21 Pilots. You get a lot of modern rock bands that kind of locked in to the backing tracks. And there's a whole set of fans that want that. It's kind of fans have kind of caused that to happen in some cases because that's what they want. But you got a different set of fans that want to see indie bands. They want to see hardcore bands. They want to see speed metal bands. They want to see bands. I'm a jazz guy. I'll go see a jazz outfit in New Orleans or something because that's what I want to see. And so, it's a different fan bases want different things. And I can't put down, the DJ crowd or electronica crowd. They want to get into that. I'm a different type of electronic musician, But it's interesting that you guys were talking, I think we talked, last time that you're working on an album that you had previously put out, which was Sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll get into that because you basically during this time you guys are re-recording it and remastering it and changing some things about it. So maybe talk to the fans about that.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be all the songs that were on the Sacrifice EP, but with the new vocalist, which is me, adding some new guitar parts, completely re-recording the whole thing, remixing it, remastering it. So, and then adding 4 new songs to it as well.
That's cool.
So it's the same, but it's also very different at the same time.
Because they changed like who sings on it, and so the songs. If somebody had both albums, there's a reason to probably have both records. Because if you're a fan, you're like, it's not going to sound exactly the same. And,
yeah.
And then you've got more songs on this album, right? So it's more of a full album, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's I believe it's 10 tracks, right, including the intro and the.
10
I'm
to
pretty sure
12.
it's 10 to 12 tracks.
Oh, cool.
That'll be on the full-length album that we'll put out closer to the end of this year.
Yeah, you said it was like maybe, is it October or more like December?
October, yeah. Towards the end of October.
That's cool. So what made you think of going back and doing that record and redoing it rather than maybe doing a full new project? You felt like you had something more to do with that record?
Yeah, I think even when George and Tyler sat down to record it the first time, they even kind of knew then that they were eventually going to go back and redo it, just because the music is there. It's just some of the production quality wasn't what it could have been. You know, they were making it in, George's parents' basement with sheets up and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, our method of hearing you is dying. So.
Oh, okay. So you changed it.
There you go.
You good? Well, I still hear you, but you probably can't. You can't hear me so good. It's working.
But yeah, I think you can still hear us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. You couldn't hear me.
Anyway, I don't know what he's already said, but back in 2016, me and Tyler got together, just wrote the rest of Sacrifice, and recorded it in my mom's basement with, I think he just said, with sheets around, like hanging from the ceiling tiles around the drum set, and then my guitar cab in the closet with a bunch of clothes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just had a comforter set up behind, like on a rack that I was singing into. Because I was the the lead vocalist and the guitar player, and I also was the bassist on the album. And then Tyler played all the drums. But we finally got done with it, and as we were releasing it, I really just had the urge to play it. I wanted to play it. So I was like, I'm leaving for school in 4 months. Let's get a band together and let's play at least 3 shows before I leave,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so we did. We got Josh, and we got my our bassist Ryzhell, which he's not here right now. And we played 3 shows up in St. Louis, and then I went to school. 2 years later, they all moved out, and Chris joined the band. And I jumped ahead. From right after we released it, me and Tyler had already talked about wanting, just because of the quality of the sound, we were always planning on re-recording it and remastering it, just because we didn't have
the capability at that time.
Yeah, we didn't have the right equipment, basically. And so in the meantime, we switched the lineup around. We added another guitar player. We switched into vocals, and I became backup vocals. And also Chris is backup vocals too. We try to have a 3-part harmony, all the time.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like an Eagles thing then.
Sure, yeah. And, it's also really cool because we also utilize, 2-part harmony with a scream in the background as well. So, one guy's screaming, maybe I'll be screaming or he's screaming, and I'm singing a note and Chris is singing a note. And it's a really cool texture. But yeah, this new, like I think you already said it, this new album's gonna, or the remastered album with the 4 new songs is gonna, it's in my opinion 3 times the quality. You know.
So you guys use like a digital audio workstation to record, right?
Yeah, we use Studio One.
Do you guys record like every track like separately, or do you record like a full band into the DAW, or do you record kind of like a lot of people do now, is like every track in kind of isolation where the band isn't playing together, or are you playing like together?
Well, we don't do the full band simply because we don't have a really good place to record drums.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot afford studio time.
Yep.
Especially in LA. We are looking to change some of that stuff because we are planning to build a studio here in the next year or 2. It's in the plans. But no, we for this remastered album, we definitely did everything separately. The first Sacrifice, I kind of did like a chicken scratch. We call it chicken scratch guitar takes. Just one take of guitar through the whole song, and then, to a click, and then just for Tyler to record drums to, just so we had some guitar.
Get a reference for it, like reference.
Yeah, and then I would take his drums, and record to his drums, the guitar, the bass, and then after that, I would do vocals. So essentially, yeah, we're doing it all separately for both. And I personally would kind of like to do it as a band, but for our music, it kind of, and I think we mentioned it last time, but it kind of calls for not digital, but more perfection.
Yeah, but I think the whole recording process, I think I talked about, I don't know, I saw a documentary with like George Martin.
Okay.
And he had mentioned like when he started recording the Beatles, they always had originally just recorded as a band.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started to do what a lot of people do now, is like he kind of introduced to rock and roll the idea that you really should do it separately. Mm-hmm. Because you don't necessarily want to represent reality. You want to write like a painter. Right. So I had this idea of sound paintings, which means that you don't necessarily want to capture a band as you would hear them in a performance. You're going to be artistic with the sound, which means you have to be very detailed with the sound and separation of the tracks so that you can mold them with effects and all kinds of other concepts of running, studio takes of backward taping and shadow vocals and all these ideas that he kind of started to introduce. And later you get, other people, double down on it with like guys like, Pink Floyd and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and Hendrix all started using the studio as a painting kind of canvas to do sound paintings.
I that takes me back. That was one of the first things I ever, thought about when like creating an album is, there's 2 aspects of a band. There's the live performance and the studio, the record. And to me, the live performance is ever changing. It's always going to be, like we said earlier, just a new performance, different atmosphere every venue, every night, even if it's the same venue 2 nights in a row. It's a little different. With the record, in my opinion, it's exactly how I want it to be. Want it to be. This is exactly what we're going for, and how we see it in our minds. Like you said, like a canvas and you're kind of sound painting. And it's very, very hard. I don't know, actually. It's got to be so much harder to do that as a live performance recording.
It's harder. You got guys like the Stones, they tended to live record until they got further in their career and they started doing, more advanced work.
Yeah.
But like every band, a lot of bands, like a punk band, they tend to want to do it. Like the band, like a Black Flag or Husker Du, they might go in and do like Zen Arcade in a warehouse, totally plugged in and just track it, and that has its appeal. When you get a band like the Who, a lot of Who's Next stuff was recorded in London for this aborted, big rock opera, and they recorded a lot of the Who's Next in this theater because it was supposed to be this rock concert concept album. And so the reason Who's Next has this kind of live feel is the band is like the whole band's recording. A lot of those tracks were done live and then overdubbed. Now, the cool thing was when they overdubbed it, they tightened it up even more and made it kind of not reality.
Yeah.
It had that live feel, but then it has the perfection of Townsend going in and then taking his solos until they got refined to the point where, what you hear on Who's Next is like classic. It's a classic record.
Yeah.
But the original raw versions of it kind of are a picture of what it would become. But the energy was there. And some of the drumming and stuff was kept because Moon had that energy. And sometimes you want that live performance and you kind of take it, if you're recording, sometimes it's good to do some tracks live and then some tracks not. It's like if you use digital stuff, you use a digital DAW or you use audio.
Yeah.
I mean, analog stuff. Like I'm an analog guy, but sometimes I use a digital synth if I want to use digital, but a lot of times I use my Moog because the Moog's going to give me something heavier than what digital can do. But there are some places where you want a piano. And analog doesn't do pianos well. You gotta take a digital synth to get a piano, like a sampled synth. And so, I think it's like a technique. If you take some live stuff, some sampled stuff, you take whatever's necessary to kind of service the song. And in some situations, some songs require it to be, bare bones. Some require it to be Pink Floyd level. Field recordings, orchestration, all kinds of crazy stuff, shadow vocals, doubling, every technique under the sun. But yeah, it's cool to see you guys like doing that kind of that perfection. I think is what it makes a record versus a live performance. I think that's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, and we couldn't possibly do all the 20 some odd vocal tracks that we like to use on some parts, as a live recording with 3 guys,
Yeah, unless you're gonna run the backing vocal. Yeah, some bands will try to use their backing track, but then they get locked in. Mm-hmm. Like, if you try to go and replicate like 20 overdubs of a vocal, then you're locked into that structure as you recorded it, and then you're that becomes like a real pain in the neck, And some bands, I mean, there's a story about the Eagles where like Don Henley and Glenn Frey during the concerts for Hotel California, they actually would fine the rest of the members in the band if they didn't play note for note Hotel California the way that it was recorded. They were trying to force what bands do now with computers.
There's no loss with that.
Yeah,
was the band at that time.
Yeah, he was then, and we said it was like mind numbing. It was making him take drugs, because it was like taking the fun out of performing. Yeah. I mean, Walsh is a great like improvisational.
Let him do his thing.
Let him just do it, and all the rest of the guys, let him just go off. And like, no, stay in the groove. Just do it like the record. And to me, that totally, helped lead to the end of the Eagles because of their kind of tyrannical control over the band. They took all the fun out of it. Yeah, I think in the studio, you make it perfect. You do what you want. When you go on the road, you kind of like, let's bring some life into it. Let's change it up, and to try to like make it exactly like the record every night. I don't think most musicians want to do that.
It also creates like a whole nother aspect of your live performance for your fans. Like it's more intimate for your fans. It's more intimate for your not fans, like your just your crowd in general. When you're playing a different show every time, and not playing the exact note for note everything the same. Even like I go to shows, and I'm like almost more. What do you call it? I get joy out of seeing fuck ups or differences in the melodies or the guitar solos, or I'm like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I'm so glad I came to this.
Let's see if a band can actually handle a mess up. Like if they can handle a fuck up and actually go with it, and then make it look like they didn't F up. Yeah. And that's kind of like a musician kind of, it's a happy accident that actually makes them go off and do something else.
Yeah.
And then maybe create another song later. Yeah. Oh, I never thought about doing that. Maybe I should go do that.
Yeah. And that's like totally, even if you do keep doing it every show, like it's a one-time thing. Like that first time, your crowd's like, if they notice, it's just so cool, There's one band, Polyphia. They started one of my favorite songs by them. They're an instrumental group, and one of their guitar players, his guitar would not go into tune, and he actually stopped the band to restart. They restarted. They got about 10 seconds in the song, and he got mad, and he took his guitar off, threw it on the ground, and walked to the back for about 30 seconds, came back out, and tuned up another guitar, plugged it back in, and started playing halfway through the song. And I got it all on video, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world, because when else are you ever going to see that, I got to watch the rhythm part the whole time, not the lead part, I don't know. Stuff like that's cool to me, and I like to bring that for our band as well, Actually,
I'm a big fan of the kind of old school jam band. Watching I used to go see Parliament Funkadelic. Yeah. And they were just they're like the funk Grateful Dead. And if you ever saw a band that was funk and psychedelia and R&B, super heavy Hendrixian guitar solos, and they just go off. And they could go off and do Maggot Brain for like 20 minutes, with these Hendrixian solos in it. And, Bootsy Collins just slapping the bass and just like going off on all these like jazz fusion directions. And that's what really gets me excited. I mean, that's why I would go see the Allmans. Because the Allman Brothers would do the same thing, this country fried fusion thing that just thinking Greg Allman on a Hammond B3, I'm a keyboard player. So it was like watching Greg Allman was like, his voice is so good, people don't recognize how good of a Hammond B3 organ player he was. He was like incredible, but his voice was so awesome that people didn't really realize that he was just as good a musician as anybody else in the band when it came to playing on that board. Yeah. Which is weird because, people don't, but if you go back and you listen to like the stuff that he did, it's like right up there with Dwayne in terms of what he was doing. He was following Dickie Betts and Dwayne Allman on a keyboard, and he was doing a damn good job. Yeah. But I digress. But so you guys have been just working on your new projects, right? And under COVID, have you guys been thinking about doing live streaming or joining any kind of projects like that? Maybe talk about that.
Yes, we're slacking on it. We have been talking about it for a few months, and I think our biggest issue is just, again, it's really hard to mix the drums with
to get a live drum. Yeah, you got to mic the drums right. It's hard to mic the drums, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like our only setup we can do is have the mics, our vocal mics are in the same room and facing the drum set. So it's just we're just still trying to figure that out, I guess. And then, but everything else we have rigged up to be direct input. The bass, and the guitars.
Yeah, I mean, I guess only a Roland electronic drum set they could go right into the board would work. But that's money. But that would make it so it would work better. And some of those I've gotten, not that I'm a big Roland guy, but I kind of use a lot of Roland stuff. That does solve that problem, but it's not the same as an acoustic set. But their stuff is getting so much better. Yeah, that some of those sets can actually approximate pretty good.
I mean, shit. What
So much better and so much more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, don't they have like 20 grand?
Yeah, they're crazy. They're crazy sets.
To do the same thing I do now is like $3,500, $4,000.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's hard to do.
Setup, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
but we are gonna do it for sure.
Yeah, but the mics you need probably could be in the same ballpark, maybe.
Well, we have all the mics to do it. It's just getting all the pieces to come together.
Oh yeah, maybe you need a better soundboard. Maybe a soundboard. You don't have.
It's not even that. It's just really sitting down and getting all the pieces. Like realistically, where do the vocals need to be to where there's not a bunch of bleed between everything?
Oh, because you're
overpowering the mic.
Oh, because your space that you're recording is so small, you can't spread it out.
Yeah, it's like a living room essentially.
It is. Living room.
Yeah. So that's where you're running into the problem. You're getting the bleed coming from. Even if you're micing, you're still picking up other stuff.
Yeah,
I get it.
But we will eventually, probably in the next month, we'll do a nice little hour set or something. But
yeah, because I mean that seems to be like the problem today. One of the things we always get into is like streaming services and capabilities like this, allow us to talk to musicians all over the world and to communicate. But the problem with a lot of with musicians, what we have is we get paid more money for doing a live show than we do for doing anything else. And you can make more money selling a T-shirt or a button or a poster than you will on Spotify or Apple or all the other services. And so now musicians who have been able to kind of survive that way under COVID, they're kind of hitting the wall. Because it's like, okay, people will go and pay for Xbox Live and PS4, and they'll pay a YouTuber a $15 tip for them playing a video game. But when it comes to a band, nobody wants to pay the band. So it's like, how do we get the kids today to want to give you the $15 like they give $15 to a YouTuber?
It's good. I really think it's just because it's so easy to access. It's so easily accessible. Like all music is, and for free. Like you can almost any song you can search on YouTube, or you can illegally download it almost anywhere. And, with YouTube, they get it with the the advertisements, but in Spotify, you pay $10 a month or $8, $10 a month, and you get millions of songs. It's just so much easier accessible, and the only way to make money is to play the shows. And there's a lot of bands that are actually doing. They're streaming shows and they're charging tickets to.
I have an agent that's working on that for me. So there's a lot of people doing that. And it's just a question of how many fans can you actually get to do it. And what happens is your reach. A lot of my fans are in Europe and Asia and outside the US. So in the US, I might not get a lot of guys to actually pay for that, but in like South Korea, in Tokyo, in London, and in Australia, Norway, Netherlands, I can get enough. I can get 300-400 people to pay $5.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of that's how the music business is working now. You got to get people that find your audience wherever they are, and get them to monetize their interest in the band. So that you get to work in that way, or you do sync licensing. You find a way to get into a sync licensing company, and you work on other projects. Like you work on somebody else's project, putting bass lines down. You work on putting like 30-minute commercials together, or little snippets for advertisements and for movies and TV shows, because there's so many things that have to have music on it. If you get yourself into that world, you can get some income from a couple hours worth of work for little snippets of your work. Get more money for 30 seconds of your work in a film than you will all year
Right.
And it's kind of crazy, but that's kind of how it's working in the business. It just seems it would be cool if kids would appreciate, or the fan base would appreciate, music at the same level as other types of entertainment like video games. Because I grew up in an age where, I bought Purple Rain on vinyl when it came out. I went down and got it. I went and got, like a lot of big albums at the time were on, vinyl. So I had Led Zeppelin 4 on vinyl, I had Yes albums on vinyl. I would go and in that age, it wasn't a playlist type of culture. If you bought the record, you're going to go in the basement with your bros and you're going to listen to the whole thing. So do you guys find that the people who listen to music are more likely to listen to the whole album, or are they still selecting your songs like as part of a metal playlist, or do they actually listen to your whole record?
Well, I don't know about our fans, but I know about like the modern attention span, and it's anywhere from 10 seconds to 3 minutes of a song. So I don't see how, if we're not, just huge, whatever, majority of people aren't going to listen to a 7-minute metal song. But, our fans, I guess, I think they would listen to it straight through. I actually know a few people that do, on hand, I guess. But I don't know if we're really pushing to, I think we're more pushing for like, we released that EP. We released 3 songs. We didn't necessarily put the first song on there because it was our best song. It was just in the order that it's going to be chronologically on the album. And I've noticed that song has way more listens than the other two.
Because it's the first one.
It's first or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if the modern today's society really listens to whole albums anymore. Just because you have all the versatility of making playlists, and you're making your own records. To listen to.
I think what it seems like the genre, like in the genre that you're in, like the rock genre or metal genre, there are people that will still listen to full projects, but it seems to be more prevalent in like hip hop. Like you listen to guys who are fans of like Tyler the Creator and Odd Future, or you get into like Brockhampton. People will listen to those projects. It seems like hip hop has kind of taken over, where in the old world of like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all the old 70s bands, like the Eagles, people would listen to Hotel California all the way through, because it's kind of a concept album. But now that seems to have been put into like Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator. A lot of these like hip hop artists have projects that are concepts, and people seem to listen to those things all the way through. But in other genres like pop and EDM or traditional, what's in the top 50, people are just playlisting all that stuff.
And well, we Josh knows more about it than I do, but I mean, tell them about like how we're pushing our Spotify, how we push to curators. We're not pushing an album, we push songs.
Right. Yeah. So really, we want to tap into people who will sit and listen to the whole album, because it does flow together nicely like that. We also have a lot of songs that are good standalone by themselves and would work well in a lot of different people's playlists. So our goal right now is really just getting our music in front of as many people as possible. So you kind of have to adapt in that way, because it's obvious, like big playlists on Spotify are getting millions and millions of listeners, and that's how a lot of people are finding new stuff to listen to. So we really want to, that's why we'll have the whole album. We have the 3-song release EP. We're probably going to put out more singles before the album comes out. So we really want to tap into both aspects there.
Yeah, this seems like this is an age kind of like the 50s of the single era. where like the late '60s with Sgt. Pepper's was the beginning of the era of the album, but in the 2020, it's the age kind of like in the '50s, like you had all these singles and people didn't really have. They had albums that were eventually cobbled together, full of like all the hits, but they didn't have like cohesive concepts. They would just throw like Motown records. A lot of times they would just throw together all the hits and then release it as a full album, but it really didn't gel. It might be that the same guys like the Funk Brothers maybe recorded everything and it has a similar sound and they're all hits, so it's fine. People didn't really care, but the idea of a concept record really started with the Beatles. But we've kind of are starting to go full circle again. A lot of the bands I've been talking to have a kind of two-stage strategy of like they've got these albums, but they have a single strategy where everything's a single on any of the streaming services, and they'll push it out. They're trying to get it to the curators on the the playlist curators and get it out there and get it pushed. And that's the game that we're in right now. But hopefully it will spin back to albums. I'm an album guy. I like to listen to albums like reading novels. I think that when a band puts together a really good album, it's like reading the great American novel, And so if when you have a really cohesive concept, it's cool to see what a band's thinking. And sometimes it takes more than one song to understand the whole project. And I think some of the kids today might be missing out on the full breadth of an artist if they only just pick one here and there.
And I really feel like that's just because of, I don't know what it is actually, but it stems from just the attention span of younger people now, and kind of our today's society is they can't hold their attention to something if it's not like grabbing their attention constantly over and over.
But yeah, you have so many distractions. You got, the kid watching YouTube, their favorite YouTube star. You got sports, you got your cell phone. Somebody's like giving you an instant message. So then you don't have the time, kind of quiet time. In the 70s, like I said, I go pick up Led Zeppelin 4. There's no cell phone. There's no internet. So I'm going to go out and play ball with my friends. I'm going to go in the basement. I mean, it does not, never went alive. I'm going to go to a comic shop. I'm going to go get some baseball cards. There's limited choices about what you were going to do. I'm jump a ramp with my BMX or whatever. But you didn't have like these millions of choices things that you could do. Yeah. And so listening to Led Zeppelin for the 15th time, that sounds like a good idea, But now people have so many things they could do. That I think that's the problem is you have to kind of map out some time, because I podcast, I listen to a lot of full projects just because I grew up liking that. So because this is what I do, I tend to do that, but I understand why people don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your on what are you going to be doing for 2020, 2021 besides getting this album out? Are you working on like the next record? A lot of bands I talk to, like they got this one project and they got this other project. Do you guys like map out what you're doing, or you do like wherever you are now is where what you're doing, or you're planning out like long term?
We are constructing a long-term plan. It's nowhere close to being done, but I don't think it ever will be. It will ever change or keep it changing over time. But of course, I have a plethora of songs that I've been working on, and so does Chris, so does Tyler. We're trying to devote all of our time right now to finishing the album, obviously, but in the meantime, we're also working on anything we can for the next album, for merchandise, for artwork,
So you guys are also thinking about like vinyl for this, right?
Yeah. Eventually, we plan to start with CDs and a digital release, but of course, it's not in the budget quite yet.
Yeah.
No, I think it would be, I would like to make everything. You know, I want to, you know, digital. You know, to do. We're gonna do CDs, of course. The easiest one's digital, but then, you know, even USB drives. You know,
USB drives and cassette tapes are like the big thing now, because cassette. Yeah, people are the old cassettes that I grew up with in the 80s before CDs came. Everything was cassette. You know, we had tape decks in our cars. And, I still have tons of those. I'm like, oh, I only got a couple players left. I can do it. I got a couple Walkmans sitting around. But I actually been playing around with Walkmans that convert my tapes into my Moog. So I can actually bring the signal into my Moog, and then I use them to just rip the sound up. So I don't like recognizable samples. Sure. I like to take something and then like turn it inside out so you can't even recognize it. It's like the opposite of like Ice Ice Baby. Yeah. You know, go and take something and make it so it's totally unrecognizable, and then use it as a sound source. You know, but it's just, I think it's cool that there's, you know, I saw a company in Russia was actually taking reel-to-reel tape. Company called like Orbital, and they actually will create reel-to-reels for bands, and then you can sell them as like a box. They come in a box, and it's like a vinyl package. It's like, so it's like, you know, if somebody has a reel-to-reel player, your album's on a reel-to-reel.
That's so sick.
And I think I was like, whoa, I should put one of my records out on that, just to be kind of perverse, you know. It's like only the hardcore fans are going to get that one.
Oh yeah. Only make
because you gotta have the machine to play it on. It's like trying to get a 8-track.
No, yeah, we'll definitely do vinyl eventually. But what my plan is to, you know, when we drop this album, like within a year, I want to be done recording the next album, and not do it this quite as slow as we did this one. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard to write and record and mix when, you know, you're 2,000 miles away from each other, and also going to school and stuff, and having all this other outside crap going on, and also trying to recapture the old sacrifice and not change it too much, you know, because we completely redid it. Like, it's all complete, you know, we re-recorded all guitar, we added MIDI, lots of MIDI, all new drums, all new bass, you know, all new vocals, obviously.
So lots of soft synths through the MIDI stuff. You got like synthesizer stuff, right?
Yeah, well, you know, like strings and choir, and you know, I have some. Actually, the most like analog or saw synth that I use is actually for like drops. You know,
or just drops.
Drone a low
drone stuff,
just as a like depth. You know, I really
add some effect or putting something in. It's really low in the mix just to add some ambiance.
Yeah, you can't hear it.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, that's the kind of George Martin technique. You know, you layer stuff in, you put it real low. I mean, Peter Gabriel and like Tony Banks from Genesis, I was watching a documentary, and they used to talk about how they would put these things really, really low in the mix. Oh, yeah. You know, you'd have like somebody with a cello just hitting it every couple bars, and you didn't even know it was there.
No.
Or somebody with a triangle just doing it like once every 2 minutes, you know, just throwing something in some off the wall, you know, and throwing it in a mix and just layering it. It just ends up being like a sound painting again. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with recording technology.
Yeah, and it's cool because the only way you can, even writing it and putting it in, the only way I can tell it's there is taking it out and putting it back.
Yes, there's some things like you don't know that they were even there until you like unpack it.
Yeah,
I love watching like documentaries. I was watching a documentary on like Electric Ladyland, and they were showing like all these like guitar, like Hendrix used to overdub his guitar like crazy. And on Electric Lady, he was doing it like extreme level because he finally got to like a 24-track recording studio. And you know, if you had the album before that was only like maybe 8 tracks, and he had gotten up to 24, and then they could bounce. So he started doing all this crazy layering, and he would just overdub his guitar in different tunings, and it's just the layering is just like it's this wall of sound.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it sounds like synthesizers.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of drawn into what Hendrix could do on guitar. Is kind of like it was a kind of a precursor to what people ended up doing with synthesizers.
Yeah.
You know? And I always like looked at him as like, well, he's kind of like the root of a lot of that stuff that people later, you know, did on synths that he was doing on guitar.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I guess the most guitars we have going at the same time would be, let's see,
8 to 10.
8 to 10? No, it'd be 6 to 10. Because
The
we usually try to just you know, for a real tight rhythm sound, it's just left and right, 2 guitars.
Yeah, left and right.
You know, we also like the quad track, so we'll do the same thing twice. So we'll have 4 guitars.
Yeah, just build it up, double it up.
Yeah, but then, you know, we'll add a harmony on top, like a dueling guitar lead on top. That's 6 guitars. And then sometimes, in one of our songs, we've got rhythm harmony like dubbed 4 times, plus like octave part. I don't know, 2 octaves. So that's
Octaves, right.
plus a dubbed dueling harmony. So that's another like 4 guitars. So yeah, 10. You know, up to 10.
Yeah.
And
that's just like really kind of class. A lot of stuff like if you go back in the 70s and you look at Fleetwood Mac, you look at Tom Petty, you know, band ELO, and Page was doing on the you know, the later day Led Zeppelin records where John Paul Jones got more involved. Then you hear this crazy layering, that, you know, the Cashmere type stuff that was going on. They started doing like heavy studio manipulation. Yeah. They weren't just doing what they did on Led Zeppelin 4. They started getting, you know, in through the outdoor type of stuff. But yeah, it's really cool to talk to a band that's still a band. And I appreciate that. I'm always trying to find, you know, guys who are still out there playing their instruments and doing it. And it's hard because like if you're an electronic band, you know, you can go and have somebody in the Netherlands do one part and then go and mix it in FL Studio and it doesn't really matter because you're using an 808, you're not using a real drummer, you're using a 909 or something. So you can get it done, you know, pretty quick. You know, you don't have to be in the same room and maybe you just have a Skype, but you guys got to do it a lot, you know, because you got to have that kind of relationship because you're in a band and a band is a team versus like a guy that's like by themselves or a duo. Yeah. You guys gotta mesh with the chemistry, and that's what is the exciting about it. That's why that's why people want to see a 4-member band or 5-member band, 3-unit band, because they want to hear that chemistry. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, no, it totally is, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys still keeping the faith in that. It needs to be done.
For sure. Hell yeah.
So this is going to go out right now. It's been going out on Facebook Live on my Fam Electric Ghost channel, and we will send you the link to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and put it on Anchor FM, and then it's going to go out to 11 podcast platforms, including Spotify, which we're a part of, and Apple Music, Google, and probably 8 other ones. So we're on like a different platform. So we'll send you those links. It will take us about an hour to get it all together, but you know, we'll send you that as soon as it's ready. But thank you for being on the program. When your new album's ready in October, we can talk to you again and push it out.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Peace.
Okay. Bye.
Go ahead, Tyler.